episode 1138 of the Multifamily Collective. This is the very first episode of 2022, and I'm super excited about it, especially as it relates to the content that we are going to put out in 2022. We are doubling down on our commitment to get content to you on a daily basis and to make sure that we don't miss a day. We're also committed to getting that information and that content out in the various avenues, be it the podcast, be it the video cast, be it some additional written narrative around the content that we are creating. Definitely collective conversations is something that is going to carry on into 2022, 23. We just have some exciting things that are happening at the Multifamily Collective. But today, I'm still on vacation. Forgive the hat, my unshaven face, but I couldn't help but to start creating the content for this year. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about psychological safety, because I think this is something that we are going to hear a lot about. We're going to continue to hear a lot about in the year 2022 and in the out years, especially as it relates to the impact of the pandemic, certainly on our team members in the work environment, but also our team members in their home environments and other environments. It's even though there are a lot of things to be excited about in the world today, and there are lots of opportunities that are shaping up out there on the horizon, there is this sort of underlying concern about the pandemic and the ongoing and on-lasting impacts that it has had on us over the last two years plus minus. But psychological safety, let's talk about that in the way of a story. This is a personal story. It dates back to like 2007, 2008, 2009, maybe. I can't remember the exact date or year rather. But I had gone to work for a company called Mills Properties, and I was managing on site a property that was about 1,100 units. It was made up of 63 different buildings. It was downtown St. Louis, right next to Forest Park in the a historic DeBoliver neighborhood. The neighborhood had been developed for the 1904 World's Fair. So all this housing that was in the DeBoliver neighborhood was actually there to house people for the 1904 World's Fair. But that development had, let's say it had 10 different retail components or commercial components to the actual residential. It was just street side retail that went right up against the street. So there was just street side parking and a little bit of parking behind the buildings, but this is a very walkable neighborhood. And we had somebody that was housing a business in one of those retail sides. There was a bakery and a restaurant. Very good bakery, very good restaurant, but there was not a lot of traffic that came to this restaurant. So it was not very successful, despite the fact that they had good fare. But the owner of that bakery just held on way too long and got very, very, very far behind in their rent. And I went about evicting them and ended up hiring an attorney, and the attorney went into great depths and detail in trying to figure out a way to evict this particular individual. Instead of a straightforward thing, made it into a very complicated thing. Ended up suggesting that we take depositions from people, and in my naive nature, I just followed the lead of the attorney. Long story short, and the punchline for today's video is that I, at some point, was called into the president's office rather, and he showed me a bill for $8,000 for an attorney. And he said, "What is this for?" And explained it to him in brief. And he said, "Look, take a seat." And went on to say, "Hey, look, you just got an $8,000 education. I just paid for it. And I pay you to make mistakes, but I pay you to learn lessons from those mistakes, and just chalk this up as a lesson in what not to do as it relates to evicting a commercial tenant." And then he went on to explain what exactly I should have done instead of hiring this attorney and having that attorney just go off on his own and kind of lead me in a way that wasn't productive for the organization. But anyway, that particular president in that organization created a psychological safe space for me to learn a very valuable lesson on his dime. $8,000 worth of attorney bills that yielded us nothing. We got absolutely nothing out of that. But he didn't come down on me in a way that was condescending or crushed me as a professional. He simply looked at it as a great big education, one that he funded and one that he knew that he would never have to fund again. So that is one lesson in psychological safety that you can take away in 2022. If you are a leader in an organization and somebody messes up, whether it be tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, it is on you. Um, it is incumbent upon you to create a psychological safe space for that person to learn a lesson, even if it is an expensive lesson. You can rest assured, if you handle it in the appropriate way, that mistake will never be made again in your organization. And that particular lesson learned out of that would carry on to other facets of one's decision-making process and one's decision-making um, criteria for the future. So my encouragement to you today, create psychological safety in your organization, exercise it regularly so that you get world-class team members who have learned from their mistakes. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.